The person who says that they've finished learning is the person who's going to die tomorrow. I started business with zero business experience. And so it was actually a level of naivety that actually got me there because I didn't know what I didn't know. And then by the time I started to know it, then fear kicked in, and then fear then drove me.
If I put 100 people in this room today, what are the characteristics you're looking for that you can go, okay, I know that person's going to be great? Yeah.
I think the worst people are good enough. I don't care how good they are at something, but if they are a verb, I will go nowhere near them. And a verb is someone who's a victim, entitled, rescue and blame. It's really that person who doesn't want to go to base camp but wants to go to the top of Everest.
If you were to build Boost again today, is there anything you'd do differently?
We're more capable than what we think we're actually capable of. The mind gives up so much quicker than the body. Discovered that in Survive, but I'd also discovered in business. How do you move a mountain one rock at a time? You don't go, oh my God, it's too big a mountain to open 100 stores. We now have 900. If you just do one thing every day to move forward, then suddenly that mountain is built. Then eventually you get to the top. I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough about AI to be dangerous. I'm one of these people that isn't amazing at anything, but I'm good at a lot of things.
What have you learnt about like the building blocks of making a good business? Welcome to Chew the Fat. My name is Frank Grief, and I started this podcast after I sold a business for $180 million with my two brothers. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for Children's Cancer Institute by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. In this series, I'm going to bring different types of founders on for you can share in their journeys and their lessons and insights. I'm also going to bring on guests who are in the middle of scaling their business. I want to make sure the challenges are relative to you and make sure you can take insights that you can use in each and every day in your business. I hope you enjoy. Janine, what's the context we need to know about your younger years that made you the person you are today?
Look, I think we're the sum of all the things that happened to us, not the one thing. And, so I think I grew up with, certainly there wasn't much money in the family. The presents were sort of secondhand bikes, so went to we're right out in the suburbs in a place called Knoxville that barely had been developed, like it was still a dirt road. And so it was sort of it was very lower middle Australia. Like there wasn't anyone that had their own businesses. No one was in executive management roles. They were all the workers. And so I think that you sort of grow up thinking that there's no financial net, right? So whatever you need to do it. There's no money there to go to college. If you want to go to college, you go to it. Mind you, I didn't know anyone that went to university, so I didn't even think about university as an option. So it was very much it gave you grit and it gave you resilience. The school I went to was Knox Tech, and it was renowned for, you don't mess with them. There would be Saturday night were fights with the local school, and, Knox Tech, you don't mess with them, right? And, what was it known for? It had a high pregnancy rate. I think it was the only thing that Knox Tech had put going for it. But it did give you that, it just gave you grit, and resilience. And, I remember one time I wagged once, I think, and then went to a mate's house and he got like an air gun out and was shooting people. And you just go, I don't know, really? And and it was also the era where, you just was sort of got on your bike and you went. And then, there's no mobile phone. There was no Life 360. You can track your children. It was just like they'll come home at some point. So it was sort of just this growing up in the 60s and 70s and 80s was just kind of like, you'll be fine. Get on with it.
No air tags going in the shoes. No.
The other thing that was interesting is I talked to my girlfriend about this. It was the era of put your head in the sand, So, if you got touched by someone as a younger child, it's like, oh, that's a shame, just get over it. Or if a boss put his hands on you, it was like, you just got to put up with it. It was sort of an era. And I'm not saying that as a poor me. It was just the way it was. I remember we hear about a flasher down the park and your parents don't go call the police. They go, just make sure you're with a friend. It was just such a different era. I remember the cleaner at the school was done for pedophilia, and it was like, oh, that's a shame. It was such a different era that you become quite numb. I'll tell you a quick story about a girlfriend Pia who grew up sort of in this big park, and sure, you'd go into the park and there'd be a flasher, and you just go, you roll your eyes and you keep walking. I remember she said a girlfriend came up to her and said, oh, Pia, I'm really distressed. And she goes, well, what's wrong? She goes, oh my God, you can't believe it. This guy came up and flashed me. And she was getting really distressed, and Pia's looking at her going, and the problem was, oh, that's right, that's wrong. That's right, I forgot, it's wrong. So you are in an era that has different ways of looking at it. And, I think that it's good that we've come to a space where it's not acceptable to flash and it's not acceptable to touch people, and, that there is now that education that, I think it was back in there, 1 in 5 kids were touched in some capacity. And, and to be honest, I can remember, I could probably see, I know people that would that be the case, but now it doesn't happen because the education is so much better. So I think grit, actually a very long way to say grit.
No, I love that. Thank you. You make my job easy doing it like that. It's not a 3-word answer. So what's the, I know you've shared the story so many times. So what I'm always conscious of is let's go through the journey, and for the next 45 minutes we go step by step. You're like, Frank, I've done this before. But I would love if you could encapsulate the journey of business in the top level. What would that be?
I think, you've got to remember that I started business with 0 business experience. And so it was actually a level of naivety that actually got me there, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And then by the time I started to know it, then fear kicked in, and then fear then drove me. So it was either the naivety or fear. So I think that it was pretty much, I think the key thing is if I sit back now and go, oh my God, I opened 100 stores in 4 years, right? And it wasn't, and I think that, and a bit going, we spoke about Survivor before we started airing. I think sometimes we're more capable than what we think we're actually capable of, and we put barriers on us. And I think the mind gives up so much quicker than the body, And I discovered that in Survivor, but I also discovered in business that you just do it. How do you move a mountain? 1 rock at a time. How to build a business? You build it 1 day at a time. And that's pretty much it. You don't go, oh my God, it's too big a mountain to open 100 stores. We now have 900. But if you just do one thing every day to move forward, then suddenly that mountain is built.
The naivety element's really interesting, because I think the right amount of balance of that is the perfect starting position for a first time founder. Because the concept of if you ask yourself, I imagine on day one, all right, Janine, over the next it was a year, did you say? 1 year or 4 years?
4.
Over the next 4 years, you're going to open up 100 stores. Your mind probably explodes, but you're not thinking about that. You're just going I'm just going to do this one thing now, and then the next day, and then slowly, you don't have to go all the way there from a macro sense.
No. And that's why people stop, because they look at the mountain and they go, I can't get to the top, it's too big. But if you go, well, can you step 5 meters in front of you? And you go, yeah, I can do that. Well, can you take another 5? Well, yeah, I can do 5. Then eventually you get to the top. And I think that that's what stops people, because it just seems too big a mountain to climb.
And what's interesting about your journey, right, is we're touching on Boost, and that's the start. But as I did my research and I know a bit about your journey, is building one business is exceptionally hard, and often the stats are stacked against us. But you've built multiple, and you've had you've been part of multiple businesses, and that makes it even harder. Through that process, what have you learned about the building blocks of making a good business?
First and foremost, you've got to get everything right. You can't get one thing wrong. But the key thing you've got to get right is you have to always put yourself in the seat of the customer or whoever your customer is. And if you always do I always go, I want to create a business that I'd like to go to. And if something goes wrong in the business I go to, I'd like them to do conflict resolution well. If they promise something and I haven't delivered it, I want something for that. I want even an apology or an acknowledgement or something. So that's really important to me, that we're going to get things wrong. You are in business. But if you don't have an ability for people to contact you or rectify it, then you get someone from hating you to become their raving fan if you do it right. And so for me, I'll try really hard on getting all the elements right, which is, the marketing and the product and the experience and the price and the da-da-da-da-da. But if I get one of those wrong, I also need to have an element, have an ability to fix it or to love them. And so I think that it's the really giving a shit about a customer. And I've seen so many businesses go, well, things go wrong and they go, well, it's going to cost me money to fix it. Well, it's going to cost you more money if you don't fix it, because they're going to tell 10 people, or they're going to, that they're going to put a review on it, or they're going, so what's it worth to you to not fix it? So people look too short term.
100%. Like they're short term. I love that you said that. And I think one of the things I see a lot with like early stage founders, and I don't know if it's a sign of the times, but like they start and the first thing they think about is like, how do I, it's the scaling, the mechanics, the processes. And you're like, well, actually, like what's most important in the early days is like that almost that unscalable stuff. And there's things that don't quite map out perfectly on a spreadsheet, to this point here around, when there's a customer challenge, how do you solve it? And let's say in your instance, the customer's bought something, let's say for $8. The amount of effort you probably put in to solve that is far greater than the $8, but it's the impact that makes over the long term that makes it's far bigger.
It's actually, people sort of look at marketing and they see that it's a social media ad or something you put on TV. That's not marketing. Marketing is ensuring that every customer is saying nice things about you. I call it the barbecue test. Right. So if you go to a barbecue, not this week because it's wet, but if you normally go to a barbecue, and what do you want them to say about your business? Right. So you go, okay, I want, like, if you're a chef, right, you want them to go, oh my God, have you been to, the Eat with Purpose Cafe, right? The food is incredible. You just, by the way, you have to try the steak tartare. It's the best. Oh, and the service. When I walked in, what do you want people to talk about you at a barbecue and then be that, right? And I think that I always go back to, what do I want people to say about me? Or do you want them to say oh, look, God, the steak was actually, tartare is cold. The steak is cold. And, when I said to them, I have a complaint about the steak, they go, oh, you're the only one that does that. Or I'm sorry, that's how the chef does it, bad luck. And then you go, God, never go there. Like, it is absolutely, seriously the worst place in the world. Just don't even bother. Like, it's just that cold. Like, there's a place up in Palm Beach that opened, and I think they're getting better, but it was like a great iconic place, but the food was crap. So when you hear people around the barbecue, it's like, oh, geez, such a shame they haven't got the food right. Like it's, or the noise isn't right, or, what do you want? And if one person's saying it, 10 people are. If 10 people are, 100 people are.
So how do you practically apply that? Because I imagine when you've got one store, nice and easy. The scale that it's at today, it becomes exceptionally hard. Yeah. Like, how do you apply that as a business scales?
Well, first and foremost, you have an ability for people to complain, right? And then you do things like Google reviews. So you're taking that side of the business seriously, because you're right, you can't get it right.
So Kai and I were thinking about how to create a cool ad where you hear it and you're like, whoa, I want to buy the Eat with Purpose cookbook. And then we started saying, why don't we make like big sounds like... But then he said that'd probably be annoying because they might be driving. Anyway, eatwithpurpose.net.
All the time. And you train the staff to do certain things, and you hire the right people that give a shit. You hire the right people to ensure that you can systemize things so you can get it right mostly. You put cameras in and you actually check them, right? So you put all the mechanisms you can in, and then I go back to what I said before. If all of them are in and you still get it wrong, there's still a net, right? You've still got a net to go, okay, we've still got it wrong. Damn it, that person, car broke down, the store didn't open, or the staff had a bad day, or whatever, and so, but we've still got that safety net to be able to turn them back to raving fans.
The concept there of the raving fans, I had a smile on my face when you said that before. We used to have this game in our last business, and it was this idea of you get that customer complaint, and the game become like, how do I turn that customer complaint into a delighted, happy customer?
It's a game.
Because it's really funny, right? Because if you have a customer that doesn't provide positive or negative feedback, and then you have one that provides negative feedback, but you make it your mission to have them have a positive experience, they end up being a better customer than the one that didn't 100%. Provide either.
100%.
And it's really, really interesting how you handle that, how you handle that with tact, and you have that opportunity to deliver delight.
Also, the reverse is this, and I've seen it before. Someone complains, right? I checked with the staff member, that's not what happened, right? And then, so there you've got them even more pissed off, right? Instead of going, no, I don't even check with the store. I'm really sorry that you had that experience, right? don't care, don't want to look into it, unless it was like, some food thing or whatever. But you go, I don't care if that's your experience, whether you're right or wrong has no relevance. I just want to make that customer happy.
100%. This is going to be a hard question to answer because it's quite macro, but I'm really curious. So, like, apart from that, like, what are the biggest learnings you've gotten through the experience? Was it the immense scale, the number of stores? Like, if you boil down a couple of key learnings from business, what would they be?
It's not the immense scale, because I go back to the mountain theory of you build a mountain by one rock at a time. So you don't. It's not that, because that's just a part of growing. Like, how the hell I got to my age, because another year went by, Jesus. But I think so what was the question? The
biggest key learnings from the journey for you?
It's people. It's people. It's not allowing people to get into your business that are bad. Like, it's always people, and the amount of people that go, they, in your gut, whether they're right or not, right? And you justify it because you can't be bothered, can't be bothered, or haven't got time, or they're good enough.
Yeah.
I think the worst people are good enough. And it's like, I'm a firm believer on send people on holidays because you know what's happening in the business, right? And, I've never known anyone who's fired someone and said, I wish I kept them longer. Right? It's always, I kept them for 6 months too long, or a year too long, or too many years too long. And if you've got someone in your business being damaging, and sometimes people can talk the talk, which are the most dangerous people because they can hide a lot. If you've got those people in your business, every week they're in your business, it takes 3 weeks to fix it. So the sooner you can get them out of your business, the quicker it is to start to repair the damage.
I find the topic of people in business really interesting, and it's specifically through the lens of post-exit, then going into the social media world, and I do a bit of content and I talk about, and I find the one thing that most people find like instantly boring when Frank talks about is the people side of business, which I find really interesting because, so for context, our last business had 400 team members, and I realized very quickly the game of business is won through your ability to find great talent, attract them, and keep them in the right seat. Essentially, like every problem you have can be solved with the right person. Like,
put the right people in the right roles.
That's right.
Like, if you don't like people, put them behind the computer and edit. No offense.
But yeah, it is interesting. I think maybe it's like the concept of the people almost is like monotonous to someone when they're hearing the business. It doesn't feel like quick and simple and easy because it doesn't matter. The challenge of people just continues through the entire process. It continues, and you just have to really get good at mastering that skill.
And also, good people can not become good. And it's very rare that bad people become good. But, occasionally, sometimes, they have a change of direction, or they have a baby, or there's something that happens that changes the way they think, and, so it's an interesting one when you have people, but I think, it's just, the advice is always move people that aren't working on.
If I put 100 people in this room today, what are the characteristics you're looking for that you can go, okay, I know that person's going to be great?
Yeah, actually it's quite easy now. I've worked it out. I look at you definitely go, it's what they say and their attitude to life. Forget what the capabilities are. I don't care how good they are at something, but if they are a verb, I will go nowhere near them. And a verb is someone who's a victim, entitled, rescue and blame. Right? And I'll give you an example. So someone who has been in a job a long time goes, I'm really pissed off. I've been in this job for 3 years. Why haven't I got a promotion? Right? I'm entitled to be successful. People that are victims, right? I never get the opportunity, right? Or people that need to be rescued. They can't find the answers themselves. They don't even try. They just wait to be helped, right? And also the one that blame the world. Oh, my business is down 10%. It's the economy, right? As soon as you blame someone else, you take the power to fix it out of your hands. So I sort of look for people who I call it SOAR, right? So people who go, hey, gee, it's SOAR is S solutions, right? People who go, business has problems every day, right? So if you've got a problem every day, then What are you going to do about it? So I want someone who comes up and says, look, you know what, Janine, I've stuffed up, but this is what we're doing to work it. I want someone who has ownership, right? Someone that says that, Janine, don't worry about it. I've got it. I did the problem. It's my problem to fix. Leave it with me. Great. I need them to be accountable and responsible. So I want them to soar. So when I even interview people, I will get them to say things. I'll ask questions like, can you give me an example when, can you tell me when things went bad, what happened? And I'm listening for the, oh, well, when it went bad, God, it was the whole team. The team didn't, I was left carrying the bag. I go, right, not for me. If I come across someone in an interview and they go, so tell me a thing that you had a challenge with. So look, this thing happened. It was completely my fault. But what I did about it was this. I go, right, give me that person any day over that person.
Love that. And do you think those are the same characteristics you're looking for in like a young founder to know you're going to make it or not?
Totally, completely. If someone comes as a business operator, that's the biggest thing you have to be is a good problem solver. And their buck stops with you. If you start blaming other people or things out of your control, there's a reason why most businesses fail. And that's a big part of it.
I want to actually double click on that for a second. I was having a conversation. Are you familiar with a person called Simon Squibb? So Simon Squibb, big name.
Is he short?
I don't know. well, I'm short, so to me, everybody's medium or tall. I was having a conversation with him last week, and it was around this idea: 90% of businesses fail. And I was having it again with another founder in Australia called Charlie Gearside, built eucalyptus. And it's been sitting on me like a bit where I don't know if that stat's real. And the reason why I'll share with you is like, it's hard to know how many of those are just like an ABN that started, or it's hard to know, do they start two businesses a person, those failed and on the third it was successful. And, if you change the metric from businesses to people, of like how many people that like truly give it a crack, how many of them are successful? I'm just curious in your opinion, like, do you think the stats are like that black and white, that 90% of businesses fail?
I do think that there's something in the fact that, it's a shame if you fail and not keep going. I do think that more businesses fail than they succeed. Whether it's 90-10, I don't know, but you can see why they fail. It's often never a surprise. They get themselves into financial trouble, right, really quickly, and don't have an early plan to then combat when things aren't going right financially, or they just, like I've got a business called the Business Academy, and I love seeing their faces with the aha moment where, one guy was saying he was a landscape gardener, and he said to me that, my major client, he's driving me mad. He's giving me all this work and he expects me just to deliver still on time despite the fact he's giving me all this work. I went, can you hear yourself? Can you hear that you're saying that the guy that's giving you work, it's his problem? That you're late? I said, you're going to lose him and you deserve to lose him, right? So that's an example of a guy that when I had an aha moment, I said, what are you doing about actually thanking him for the work and getting more resources so he can deliver on time? It's not his problem, all right? And it was real like he went, she's right. I just kept thinking that, he's nagging me because I'm not delivering on time. Well, mate, hello. So it was, or you say to someone about, hey, have you thought about trademarking? Oh my God, I haven't trademarked. Or do you own your own product? Oh, do you own the fact that you got a consultant in to do a logo? You don't own your logo, don't you? And there's all these aha moments and people just going, God, business is just too hard. But the main one is they run out of cash and they don't see it coming, yet they see it coming, but it's like tomorrow's problem. But yet, guys, tomorrow comes.
Tomorrow, yeah. When it comes to cash, tomorrow definitely comes. Yeah. That's put a smile on my face. Come think about where our newest business, we're doing it very differently to what we did last time. This time it's we're bootstrapped last time, doing it again, but this time we've gone big really quickly. So pre-revenue, we're now up to a team of 15. We're spending about 150 grand a month. I'm like, yeah, tomorrow comes. we better run. We better run, Janine. Of those ones, so those are kind of the elements there that you see, like the commonalities in let's call that the failure. What are the commonalities apart from the mindset stuff we talked about before for the successes?
I go back to the verb and saw.
Okay.
People who are prepared to just keep at it. People who listen to their customers, people that plan effectively. And I go back to the cash, right? I always find that you need to ask for cash when you don't need it, right? So go to the bank when you've got money in the bank. Don't go when you're sort of nearly insolvent and you're desperate. No one will go near you. First of all, they know you can't manage money. So I think that it's really critical that people that understand that they can separate people from their business. Yes, people have mortgages. Yes, they have children coming. Yes, they have all these challenges, and you don't want to put them in any hardship, but that's business, and you have to actually let your business flourish, because then you're going to lose a lot more people because your business isn't flourishing. So it's just a mindset. It's really that person who doesn't want to go to base camp but wants to go to the top of Everest. It's that person, because not that I've ever done base camp, but a lot of people can get to base camp. A lot of people can't get to the top.
Boom. We'll cut that up for the trailer. Thank you. One of the things I've noticed, through the different businesses that you've been part of and built, there definitely feels like a through line, like a multiple, I don't know, do we call it hospitality, like Boost and Betty's or like food? My question is, have you ever been tempted to completely stray? You hear about the AI and the tech and all these things, unless I've gotten it wrong, and you are part of those. Have you ever been tempted on those other kinds of businesses?
To stray in what way? To invest in?
No, I mean to build, right? So to build. So I guess I'll bring it back for a second. Our business, first one, real estate. We're in the real estate game. Very much, it would make way more sense for us for our next one to be in real estate, because we've built a customer base. We know the problem set, all of that, and then all of a sudden we've gone and now we've decided to build an AI tech company. Crazy, but maybe a terrible decision. And why is that? Because I don't know. We were like, that just looks exciting. And so my question to you is the idea of were you ever tempted to go get out of the the food hospitality game and just go into something completely different?
Look, there's similarities in every industry, right? And we go back to people, right? And we get people managing cash, and So when I was in Shark Tank, there was nearly 80% or 90% of businesses are identical. It's just that technical piece which is different, right? Now, I didn't know anything about food or juice or anything, or at all when I first started Boost Juice Bars, and you can learn it. So I think, but I have sort of had Boost for 25 years, and so with tech, I'm an early adopter in anything to do with tech. So as a user, because I have this view of there's a better way, I'll find it. And so understanding tech and being in tech ever since tech's even existed, because when I started Boost, there wasn't even internet.
Well, that's crazy.
I've noticed that it goes so wrong so fast. And I know so many people are in it and how expensive it is. And the problem with tech, I found, and you probably will counter this, is by the time you invest all this money in tech and getting an app or technology to a point, the horse is bolted nearly, right? And tech is nearly obsolete. And now we're in an area of AI, which is good because then you've got AIs to help with coding, so it's faster and more accurate and less of the bugs that we've had in the past. But equally, it's an area I don't know enough about, and it's going so fast that I'm not in that position to keep up. However, would I get involved with someone who I thought was really good at it and I could then put my elements? Yes, but I haven't really found someone that I've gone, yep, that's great. And I do find I like to control. So, and I don't like to not know. Everything I do, I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough about AI to be dangerous. I know enough about legal to be dangerous. I know enough about I know enough. I'm one of these people that isn't amazing at anything, but I'm good at a lot of things. But I'm not, when you do those, mind tests where they go, are you creative? Are you analytical, right? I am like bullseye. I'm smack in the middle. I'm not good at anything.
Oh God, you've made me smile because I feel so similar. And your words, enough to be dangerous, is like how I live my life. Yeah. So to someone who's non-technical, they're like, wow, Frank's technical. To someone who's technical, they're like, oh my God, this guy knows nothing.
Oh yeah, that's me.
If you were to build Boost again today, is there anything you'd do differently?
No. And does that mean I got things wrong? Yes. Does that mean that, there was some people I could drown? I shouldn't say that. Run over.
Yeah.
No.
Much less graphic.
Okay, maybe. And there's people I've got in my business that I really hated that they got in my business. Yes, right. So all of those answers are yes. That there was things that I was really unhappy with, but there isn't also one thing I'd change, because every single element that happened that was negative in the business actually made the business stronger, or gave me a lesson that I can take into my next journey. And so that's why I wouldn't change anything, because the people particularly, so there was a couple of leaders in the business that I heartbreakingly was in there, but thank God for them, because I will never let that happen again into my new business or any new businesses. So you never learn anything from failure, from success. It's only failure. It's only and also when the failure hurts the most is the biggest lesson, right? And it's like doing a degree. So there's nothing I would change, nothing I'd change in my upbringing, nothing I've changed in my business, because you get to a point in your life, and as long as you've got that view that you can learn and adjust and you take it in and go, okay, I'm not going to do that again, then it's gold. So, so with Retail Zoo or Boost Juice Bars, I'm still a sort of minor shareholder. I'm the chair, and a private equity business, Adamantine, who quite a good business, have sort of got it, and we've got a nice CEO in there. But it's, the other businesses that you sort of get into, you go, all right, what did I learn from that I can take into this? And that's what life is. Life is adjusting and going, the best lesson people have is doing lessons in partnership, right? I would never, ever again do a contract to go, we're friends, it's fine, right? We're fine. We're shaking hands, other than with Jeff Harris. I would do it with Jeff Harris. But anyone else, you would just go, yes, we like each other. Yes, we're in honeymoon period, but we are putting everything in writing, and we're talking about an exit, and we're talking about all the hard stuff while we're happy, because if it ever gets there, I need to be able to draw on something.
That brings a huge smile to my face, Janine, because we went through a merger in part of our journey. And towards the exit, it was like, okay, it's time to package this up and get ready to sell. And so through that merger, we realized that there was a number of joint ventures we had, which were strong tens of millions of dollars of revenue. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's have a look at the shareholders agreement. It's like, oh, no. It's just this A4 page and a handshake. I'm like, Jesus. And so going through that, you're like, okay, yeah, you see exactly why. And it's so hard to think about those things that could happen.
Why?
With so much
That's
time.
what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Yeah.
We have to think Armageddon. And look, that's why in some respects lawyers are the biggest killer of deals, because they'll sit there and they'll scare the shit out of you, because they talk about all the things that go wrong, and they'll share this, if you let that one go, these things are going to happen. So you've got to have a commercial discussion, but you need to be aware of it at the time, right? So you
100%.
you have to have those hard discussions. You have to go, hey, look, we're getting along really well now, but in the event of who makes that final call? Or if there's a drag and tag, whether I'm selling and I'm dragging my minor shareholders or tagging them along, but also if you own 3% or 5% or 10% of my business and you're stopping me making a decision, shame on you, right? For not thinking that, hey, I have control and understanding that. And I say that in the best possible way, because I had to learn that too. And everyone has to learn it, unless they sort of listen to these podcasts and go, shareholders agreement, maybe you should get that out if people are listening to this. Because, things people change, right? You might be with your best mate or your brother and he might marry someone who's in his ear, right? And suddenly the dynamics change, or there's something else that changes. You can't predict the future. You can't. And money does weird things to people.
It does the weirdest things.
Weird.
It does
They become entitled. They become, I deserve. They become, actually it was one, there's one woman who, I won't tell you her name, but she had this phenomenal business. And she did the same thing. She got this shareholder in, and it was an early employee who she gave equity to, and then somehow it passed on to this other guy. And she goes, this guy got kissed on the dick. He literally did nothing, and I had to write him a check, and it made me sick. So you've got to think about, just because they're the best employer at the moment, there's other ways, you can do it, because, you might go, here is equity because you're amazing, and then they go off to travel around the world, never see them again. You've grown this massive business for the next 20 years and they've had nothing to do with it, and you just write them a check, right? It is, that happens all the time.
You're looking at it. You're looking at him. It's happened. This time around, we're thinking about the employee share scheme, and it is really interesting, the idea of employees and shares.
Podcast didn't happen earlier for you.
I know, seriously. Where were you, Janine? And it's so funny because, I reflect again back when the early days, we were just amazing employee, been here for a year, how good. Here's whatever percentage points. We did no options, no vesting, nothing. Just boom, here you go.
Oh, that's generous.
Yeah, I know.
Foolish is another word that comes to mind.
and sometimes it works out really, really great.
Sometimes it does.
But my God, seeing that, you think about it so differently than going through it. And to the exact point, you haven't been here for the last X number of years. Here's multiple millions of dollars, and even through the process of selling, you've got to go track that person down and get signatures, and they're not answering for multiple weeks, and you're you've got 3%. Why don't you just answer? We're going to make you rich. It's really hard to think about these things in the future, and this idea of making mistakes to learn. But I think this is part of it, and I hope when people hear, they're okay, something I've not thought about, but I can then hopefully apply.
But there is ways. I mean, look, I'm the first one to go, if people are on the journey with us, and there's an event or a thing that they get, the people who are with you on that journey, they get a piece of the pie, right? I'm a massive believer in that. In actual fact, with Retail Zoo, there's been lots of millionaires in Retail Zoo that have made money, right? Love it, right? But there's ways of structuring it. So, for example, if they're with you, great. If they've gone, not great. They shouldn't get anything. So, or that there's an element, a portion that they get. So there's ways of structuring that's fair, but also is equity is valuable. And people sometimes go, I haven't got the cash. Can we use equity, for it? So if anyone's listening and someone offers you equity instead of cash, take the equity.
Yeah. Do I have some stories to tell you, Janine? This is a side story, but we once were quite generous at a particular point in time. It was a 5% equity stake, and then there came a time where they're I'd rather take a raise, and the raise was $5,000 a year, and they took that, and then 4 years later we sold. But anyway, that's a story for another day. It's really interesting, right? You've done Survivor multiple times, Shark Tank. There's all these big ticket TV stuff that you've done. Why has that been part of your journey? What interests you to do all that?
I think life's worth living, right? And I think life's an adventure, and I think it's more. I think saying yes and saying no makes life more interesting. And I think that I find TV just a fun game, right? I love games, right? And so, when someone says, hey, do you want to do Shark Tank? And go, what, sit in a chair and listen to these great businesses? Sure, why wouldn't you? That's so fun. If someone says, come and do Survivor, you go, oh, really, I want to say no, but my God, when am I going to get another chance? When do I get an opportunity to really test myself and get thrown into a desert island, but then know deep down if you get really hungry or whatever, you can leave, right?
Yeah.
You're not really stranded on a desert island. Who gets a chance? And I'm really competitive and love games and love Survivor. So, why not be part of it? I'm not a very good spectator. I love, I don't want to watch sport, I want to play it.
You want to be in the arena.
If I don't want to watch a game, I want to play the game. So, so for me, saying yes is just part of my DNA, and I think life's more interesting to say yes. I mean, I've had some great experiences. I got to hang out with Gordon Ramsay for 5 weeks.
How was that?
Yeah, he's so cool.
It's cool.
He's a great dude, right?
He seems like a funny guy too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people can say that Gordon Ramsay's cooked for them, right? Yeah. But so he's awesome. Who doesn't get to experience Survivor actually playing the game? It's so cool. So why wouldn't you say yes?
Did you learn about yourself through the Survivor process, through testing?
You can't. I think anything that's adversity, that creates adversity, is learning, right? I think having babies, having kids, when you're hitting walls, that learns. I find my children teach me so much about me, because you are new in the baby world, having only little ones. You foolishly think that you have a control of how those children end up, right? You think that they're going to go to university and they're going to follow a certain line and they're going to do this and this and this, and then you realise when they're grown up that our role is to keep them alive, because at 3-year-olds, they just want to run a road and
Constantly.
run on the beach, right? You've got to keep them alive. That's important. The second one is manners. Give them equity and love. Equity, probably not equity. Give them love. Give them manners, right? And as much integrity as you can, but they come out how they come out, right? If you described your child, your 3-year-old child now, you will describe that same traits will be that 30-year-old child, right? And so I've got a hippie, an environmentalist, a wanker, and a beautiful divine child, right? And mind you, the wanker is one of my favourites, I've got to say. He is so cool, and he's so awesome. But, I've got this capitalist and a hippie, and I've got all of them, right? And I have this expectation that, they're going to follow this path, and, and they don't. And it's so nice as parents just to go, the amount of people I come across that says, oh my God, my kid said he doesn't want to go to university. Like, and it's not their path. They can go back to school. I truly believe that we're on this earth to learn. I'm not anti-learning. I think that the person who says that they've finished learning is the person who's going to die tomorrow, right? But learning comes in so many different fields, not just university. And I think that if your child is coming up to you and saying, I don't want to go to university, I want to go and be a plumber, mate, that's good, because AI doesn't take plumber jobs.
100%. Oh, God. I'm smiling more than I normally do. I do a lot of smiling, Janine, but when you said you describe your 3-year-old, you'd be describing your 30-year-old. I was thinking about this morning. I said to my son, he's learned a new thing yesterday, so he's 3 years old. I said to him, do you want to wear this shirt or this shirt? And he goes, Daddy, no more questions. Fair enough. This shirt it is. Yeah, that's right. And it's because yesterday my wife, Ollie, said, he kept saying, why? And she goes to him, no more questions.
I'm done. Done. I know I actually said to my son once, he was sitting in the back of the car, I said, I will give you $1 just to give me 5 minutes of silence. And he kept sitting there going, is a minute up? Is a minute up? Is a minute up? It's like, Millie.
And so, like, after all of these different things in your journey, what drives you today?
I think it's to have a curious mind. Like, probably the only time I get into a funk is if I haven't feel like I'm got a purpose and I'm moving forward. And you sort of go, right. So, we're fortunate enough, both of us, to be in a situation we've got a certain amount of financial freedom, right? Which is great, right? Doesn't give you purpose, doesn't give you happiness, it gives you stuff, right? But, and so for me, what gives me great joy is to feel like I'm moving forward and achieving things and creating things. I love creation and I love solving problems. And so I don't even comprehend this view of retirement, because I don't get what that means, because if you're doing something you love, I think you've got to keep finding what you love. If you love it, well, why do you want to stop it, right? So that's perplexing to me. But I think what drives me, I don't know what drives me. It's this inner, I don't know why. Ask your son why he's over questions. Like it's just the thing that sort of, I'm competitive. I love life. I have a curious mind. I want to be the best version of myself in every way. I want to be a good person. I want to be a healthy person. That's what I strive for.
So interesting. I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were asking me to kind of connect these two dots from like this really like deep-seated place. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, sometimes life is just not that deep. And I was just thinking about it as reflecting as you shared that as like to this idea of like what drives you. It's like, I just really like it. I really like it. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy the process, and that's what.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I did 18 years of yoga, and I should still do more, but like I'm talking obsessed, like an hour and a half a day type stuff. And I'd go on these yoga retreats. I remember I went to this Guruji in Bali, and it's all about going within and breathing and meditation and stuff. And I said to him, look, as he was jumping up and down on my back and running up and down my back, I said, look, I just feel like I'm just my mind just doesn't stop, and I just get great joy out of busy. And he just looked at me and goes, be busy then. Like, what are your problem? I thought he'd go meditate more or breathe or go on a silent retreat. I expected all of this thing. And he goes, I can feel it. You're made to be busy, be busy. Saying that though, going back to the yoga experience though, there was elements of that path of going within. That breath work, that, working your body, opening your body, getting those cells out, which was very addictive. And I'm not there at the moment. I'm far away from there at the moment. But I know that it's sort of a tool in my back pocket that I know I can tap into. But I do think that the balance side of things is interesting. But I must admit, I've swapped the yoga stuff that juiced me to probably surfing.
Yeah.
So that's probably my juice now.
Are you one of the those character types you find something and you properly do it? Like you squeeze the juice out of whatever the task or activity or hobby is?
Oh yeah, the wave could be the pissiest little wave. I will be on it. Right? We go out every morning. So we have this routine in the morning where at about 5:45 I've got a text from my girlfriend because she understands directions of wind and I have no idea. I just go, tell me where to go and I'll be there, right? And so we'll rock up every morning this is, and we'll be in the water, often just the two of us. And it's something, it's more than just the surfing. The surfing gives you the giddy part, but it's the bird flying, it's the clouds, it's the sun that peaks up over the horizon, it's being in the water. It's actually being proud of yourself when it's hoisting with rain, which was today, and freezing, to still get that wetsuit on and go in, and you go, yep, good on you, because it's too easy, so easy just to go, it is raining, it is cold, I'm just staying in bed. But yet the joy you get from doing it in so many levels is really addictive.
You never regret that. That's the one thing I've learned is like, I don't want to go to the gym. You go, you're like, I didn't regret not going.
I know, but how is it so hard?
I know, every time. Doesn't matter how many years you've been doing it. It's still hard to first do it.
No, I would say that with the mat. Like I'd walk on the mat. I'd always feel better when I walk off it. But to walk on it, like Jesus.
2 more questions. So the one I'm really curious about is the continuous learning and evolution. Is there something you're learning and really hyper curious about today?
Longevity. I find that's fascinating where that's going. I think AI is bringing it forward, and I think that a lot of the baby boomers who've got money have gone far out. I'm going to die. Let's work this one out. Let's solve this problem, right? So I think it's really fascinating. The how do you keep the body in optimum form? I don't want to live forever, but I just want to live as good as I can before I fall off the perch, right? That's all I care about. So I think that area is really fascinating, and I think that industry is booming. So I think that's fascinating. I think things have been around for years, like really looking and trying to understand peptides and how that can benefit people, but understanding that it's not new. It's been around. Russians been doing it for years, right? But it's that thing where, because there's no money to be made in it for the pharmaceuticals, the research isn't there, but the results are quite extraordinary. So it's one of those ones that I'm sort of looking into and investigating now. I find it fascinating.
That's interesting. Yeah, you listen to Peter Attia and the Humans of the World, or what? In terms of like the where do you get your knowledge for in that space?
A few things. First of all, there was this lady I went to years ago called Dr. Elizabeth Yule, who is very much into longevity and so I was going to her in San Francisco, and she introduced me to peptides. Not that I took them at the time, but the first time I ever heard the word peptides, other than obviously when Essendon got done for them. Oops, right? Which everyone went, oh my God, these drugs they're giving them. And you later go, oh, okay, I understand why they would be giving them. And, because it's recovery, blah, blah, blah. So she sort of brought them up. And then there's a massive wave now of people going, oh my God, I've got the glow stack and I've got the Wolverine stack and I've got this stack and it cures this and it does this and it does that. And so I think there's a lot of incredible good that comes from it. I just think that it's not, things that you need to be careful. They talk about something like this CJC, right, which is this incredible growth hormone that you need, and it's great for when you get older. But they also don't talk about the fact that if you actually have cancer, you don't know about it. They don't know, but logic says it helps all cells, including the dodgy ones. So I think there's things in there that are incredibly interesting, but because there's no money in it, it's not getting the pharmaceutical traction, but what's happening is the wave is actually quite extraordinary. But it's actually, to be honest, it's my son who is obsessed with this space, and he's been talking to me about it for years and then slowly researching it and slowly going, okay, I'll start to think about if that's a benefit for me.
It's interesting because there's definitely an evolution I see with it's like a lot of post-exit founders at a particular point in the time, they realize like actually health is really super important, and they go through the journey. Kai and I flew to America, and we were interviewing a guy who'd sold a very significant business, and his next thing he'd focus his sights on was on the peptide space. And I'll vague it up to not reveal any critical information, but it was really interesting. There was what I didn't know prior to talking to him is how drugs are sold and patented is patent based on the delivery mechanism. So, for example, if something is an injectable, they have the patent over that. But if you can figure out how to make it a different type
Like
of
a nasal.
yes,
right.
Then you can have the new patent. And so there was a very fast, very extraordinary drug that he'd figured out through getting connection with the right scientist, how to turn that from an injectable to like an oral, like a mint.
Yep.
And he was talking us through this process. He bought a compound pharmacy, and I was going, oh my, it's like, oh my goodness.
Oh, no, so over my pay grade.
It's just,
yeah, it's quite crazy actually. Have you looked into peptides or?
I spent a fair bit of time listening to like the Hubermans and the Peter Attias of the world and the whole longevity space. Very interesting. I wouldn't say I've gone like super deep, but that was one of the thought experiments we'd gone down for our next business, was to go to like the intersection between health, tech and AI and do something. We just had this like theory, which is kind of, you walk into, let me start again. I went to my GP and I said, hey, I'd like to think about longevity. And she's like, you're 29 years old at the time. Your chances of dying are X. Don't come back for 10 years. And we were like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
And then I also thought about, the GP, you walk there, the lights are a bit, everything feels a bit like stale and stuff. And we're like, what if you made like the GP or the hospital space like feel cool, like, a cool experience, a cool place. And instead of, come back in 10 years as you track everything and then everything's like a tech dashboard, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a wave that's happening in America. But the biggest challenge for us was like the regulatory environment to start a business there when you don't know. We're like, ugh.
Yeah, I think my view is that there's an inevitability of what happens when you age, right? No surprise, right? The increase of the 5 deadly sins are increased, which is obviously cancer, Alzheimer's, blah, 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 heart attack, etc. And it's the reason these increase is because cells are becoming zombie cells and things are getting bad. And then those knees that you really trash through netball start to really hurt. And then suddenly, because your knee's hurting, you're not being active anymore. So then because you're active anymore, so it's an inevitability, right? So we know that path, right? That is a very clear path that nearly everyone will follow, right? So then for me, not doing something it seems ridiculous. I don't understand why you wouldn't go, all right, so Peter Attia or David Sinclair or, Huberman or, all of these people who are really deep diving into it. Why wouldn't you listen to them? Say David Sinclair is he spends his whole waking moment thinking about how to turn back the age of time. And he's got little rabbits and bunnies and rats all being tested, right? So I just go, I don't understand why would we just accept that as an inevitability when doing nothing is not an option for me. So, and look, let's not kid ourselves. The best things we can do is keep moving and eating well and not smoking and not drinking and all that sort of stuff. We know that, right? But to keep moving, you need to make sure that your body can move.
100%. One last question for you, Janine. As you reflect on the journey, what are you most proud of?
I think my family, because going through a journey and, going from, having 3 little kids and running your own business and having a busy executive husband, the fact that my kids are really good humans, right? They're totally different. And the most important thing that I'm really happy with, they love hanging out with us, right? That's the thing I'm most proud of is that, so Riley's got his birthday coming up. He's a ridiculously successful YouTuber. And, everyone's flying in for it. Right, everyone's making an effort for it. I'm proud that the family so close that they would do that. You know, when we have OG dinners, right? So, you know, which is, you know, if my husband's having a birthday, he just wants OG, like the originals, right? So, and all the originals always come. We have an absolute hysterical dinner, normally at my expense, being told how they got away with that and how they snuck out at 9. You know, normally it's all those stories. Actually, I've got my oldest son, he's sort of going, he's now 33. He goes, "You ready for my stories?" I said, "No, not yet." Not quite ready for those stories. But I'm pleased you're here and alive to tell me these stories. I think that's probably the most thing I'm proud of, is the fact that the family, despite the fact that, you know, I was busy and maniac and crazy, that everyone really digs each other.
I love that. That is one of the things I think about often, is that idea of when you get to that right time with the kids at the right age, do they want to come and hang out?
Yeah.
And that's a very good indicator I did a good job.
Yeah, I think that my mother is good like that. She says to me, like Talia, my 17-year-old daughter, she'll go, "Oh, do you want to go for a drive?" And I think, I don't really want to. I just want to seal. And then my mum's voice in the head going, "There'll be a point where she won't want to ask you." And I go, "Yes, of course, darling. Where should we go?"
Janine, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.